Welcome back to my channel, everybody. If you don't know who I am, my name is Cameron. Pretty much I run an agency. I've been doing it for about a year, and I just make videos to talk about things that have been going on in my life, in my agency, so I can try to help newer agencies get up and going the same way I did. Today's video is going to be about 3 things that I do regret doing if I had to restart a new agency. Now I'm gonna split this video into 3 parts. It's gonna be things that I would stop doing, things I would start doing, and then just some little tips at the end just to give you guys some other information about some things, just some tips that can help you guys. So first, we're gonna start off with things that I would definitely stop doing if I had to restart my agency today. Thing number 1 I would do is I would try and focus on 1 to 2 outreach methods. Don't switch them for like 3 to 4 months. I would just focus on those 3 methods, or 2 methods, excuse me. If I had to pick, I would probably pick, and you could pick a lot of them. There's a lot of things you can do: cold emailing, cold calling, LinkedIn outreach, Upwork, YouTube. They're all good sources, but you just have to pick 2 and stay with them. I would say the reason I say 2 instead of 1, well, you could, like I said, 1 or 2, but the reason I feel like you should do 2 instead of 1 is because if one's not working, you always have another one to depend on. And sometimes, say you're cold emailing kind of gets a little slow. And sometimes, unless you're like a professional at cold email, it's going to take a while to really get things going. The second thing I definitely wouldn't do, I wouldn't copy people's offers. Because say Alex Hermosi or somebody, you copy their offer. I believe, I don't know how many subscribers he has off the top of his head, but Alex Hermosi has, I guarantee you, he's getting hundreds of thousands of views per video. So if each person copies his offer that he has in the video, and they spew that same offer out to everybody else, it's going to get pretty saturated, and then people are going to start wondering, hey, where'd you get the offer from? I've heard that like 7 different times. Instead, you should take that offer, make your own. You should switch it up, make your own variant of it so it can sound original. So then when you do outreach, it comes off as you're a newer guy, and you're not just copying and pasting what somebody else is saying on YouTube. And after that, the next thing I would say is very important is I definitely would stay away from shiny object syndrome. That will kill your agency in the very beginning. You need to focus on one thing and one thing only. Don't go from make to N8N, back to make again, and then go to, what's it called, Zapier or something like that. And then once you see a new LLM come out, if you're using ChatGPT or OpenAI or whatever you call it, just stay with OpenAI. Don't switch back and forth to, well, actually don't do that. Don't listen to that part because they all have their uses. But don't switch, essentially don't switch offers. Don't switch like the tools you're using. Just stick with a set of tools and get good with those tools, because every time you switch back and forth, you're pretty much starting back from zero. It may seem slow in the beginning when you're just getting started, but you have to build those skills. When you were in kindergarten, actually, no, that's a terrible example. Let me think of an example really quickly. I always use the Tom Brady example. Do you think if Tom Brady, for those guys who watch football, do you think if Tom Brady played wide receiver, running back, and O-line and quarterback, he would be as legendary as he ended up being in his career, instead of just focusing on one set of skills to learn, which is the quarterback position? In your case, one set of skills to learn, which would be make.com or N8N, whichever one you choose to use, and just focusing on that, you would end up way better than you just jumping from thing to thing to thing every time a YouTube video comes out telling you that this is the next best thing to use. Don't do that. That'll slow you down, because every time you do it, you're starting over. So for our next topic, this is going to be things that I would focus on first, the most important things. The first thing is to pick one offer and stick with that, because once you pick that offer, you'll get used to saying that offer on calls and things. You'll get used to talking about it, and you'll know everything about your offer instead of switching back and forth, like I said in my last point, the shiny object syndrome. Just stick with one offer, because you'll know everything about your offer. So then once it's time to get on a sales call, not even once it's time to get on a sales call, after you've had multiple sales calls, it'll sound perfect, because you'll know exactly what you're talking about every time you get on a sales call, instead of having to switch your offer every single time you get on a call, and you're pretty much improvising it because you haven't done this before, because you switched your offer. The next thing I feel like, and this is probably going to be a controversial topic, but low key, in my experiences, when you're starting off, how can I say this? What's the word? Testimonials and all of that. When you're just starting your agency, low key don't really matter if you charge the right price. Now, when it comes to pricing, don't do it for free, because then it low key looks like you're desperate. I know a lot of people say just do it for free, but in today's world, because people have so many people calling them, it kind of comes off as a little desperate if you do it for free. So I wouldn't say do it for free. But at the same time, if you're just starting off, don't charge like 2,000 or 3,000, because then it's going to come off kind of crazy, and they're going to be like, well, have you ever done this for anybody else? And then you say no. That's going to be a little weird. Instead, I believe you should kind of do a pay per model, or pay per lead, or whichever one you're doing. Don't do a retainer, because then that's really going to start asking questions, because people are very skeptical to sign contracts for 3 or 4 months. That's when they start asking questions. But if you just do a pay per lead model, then they're going to be less skeptical to ask questions, because there's not really any harm to them if you're trash, if you're not doing good. So that's another thing I say, because believe it or not, I've done better when cold. If you guys don't know, I do cold emailing for my agency model. I've done better cold emailing when I don't include a testimonial or a what's the word I'm looking for? A case study. If I don't do a case study in my cold emails versus if I do it, because it kind of fills it up and you're doing a lot of talking, and that kind of keeps you from getting to the point of what you're trying to do, which is hop on a call with them. And the next thing that I'd say focus on also, document everything. Document. Take videos, save everything in your Google Docs. Don't delete anything that you do, because you can look back in that and check to see what you're doing, to make sure you're doing everything right, know what you're doing wrong, what you're doing right. And also, you can also get paid for it if you post it on YouTube also. And even if you don't get paid for it, if you post enough, if you have like enough evidence that you're actually doing something, then you can start getting outbound or inbound leads, excuse me. And like I said, also when you do document everything, you know exactly what you're doing right. So every time you get a new client, you don't have to completely start from zero. You kind of have some information on what you need to do, and you kind of have the steps that you need to do for your next client or your next fulfillment. So you'll know exactly what to do. And that's going to save you a lot of time, because trust me, having to start from zero every time you get a new client is gonna waste a lot of time. So like I said, just document, don't delete anything, just save everything, record everything. Well, don't record what you think you need to record, but pretty much like I'm saying, to sum it up, just document everything that you do. Now this next part is just gonna be for if you're running an AI automation agency specific. Something else that I would say do, just some tips starting off, build automations for you. Don't build them for your clients right off the bat. You're just starting off, so nobody's gonna buy automation from you. That's really hard to sell. I tell people this all the time. When you call somebody on the phone, say you're cold calling, it's gonna be really hard to get somebody to trust you, or at least it's gonna be really hard to get somebody to trust you to give you $500 for say a blog writer, or maybe a proposal generator. It's gonna be very hard to get somebody to trust you. You're gonna sound very scammy and very crazy. Instead, build those automations for you, because say you do build a proposal generator, that's going to save you a lot of time versus having to manually make a proposal every single time that you have a new client. Or say you have an email sorter or something. Save that for yourself. Don't try and sell that, because in today's world, because people have been sold automation so many times, and they've been told about it and called about it and emailed about it, it kind of gets old, and you're pretty much just fighting an uphill battle, and it's not going to work. What I always tell all of my people that watch my videos, and all the people I talk to, upsell those. So say you're maybe a marketing agency, you do Facebook ads and what's the other one? Google ads. Say you're doing an agency like that. Instead, you should try and get that HVAC client to sign with you, and you then run their ads for them. And then once they see that you actually are good at what you do and you're making them money, it's going to be way easier to upsell them on things like that, such as automations, because then they'll know you know what you're doing versus a person who has provided them no value whatsoever and just trying to come in and make a quick buck off them. Don't try and sell automations up front. Just use those automations for yourself. Now, since I've used a lot of other tools, I know which tools are like the easiest and which ones are just kind of the more advanced ones to use. So I'll just drop you guys with a little game right here. I'd say starting off, and this is just my opinion, you guys can argue about it in the comments, but I'd say starting off, I feel like you should just use make.com for your automations. You could use Google Sheets, or you can use Airtable, but Airtable makes you seem a little bit more professional. And then I would also say if you're using if you're doing emailing, use Instantly. Those are the three big ones that I would say use. I say make.com over N8N, because me personally, N8N is a hair bit harder to learn than make.com is, in my opinion. Maybe it was just me. I was having a hard time, but make.com is way more simpler. You'll have to get past you might spend a little bit more money due to the credit system in Make.com, if you know what I'm talking about. But overall, I feel like Make.com is way more easier than N8N is. And when you're first getting going, you don't want to have any type of roadblocks that's going to slow you down from making money. Because as soon as you get discouraged, because things get a little tough, you're going to give up and you're going to go start playing games again. And you're going to lose focus. And trust me, unless you really want it when it comes to N8N, you're probably going to lose focus. That's why I say, just start with Make.com. Use Google Sheets or Airtable for your CRMs and things of that nature. And if you're doing cold emailing, don't use anything but Instantly. Instantly is top tier. I don't really know too many other infrastructure apps that you can use to send emails with. So just use Instantly. Don't even look around. Trust me. Trust me. Instantly is the most quickest and easiest one to learn. The last section I want to talk about, you guys need to be thinking long term. Try and play the long term game. This goes back to the shiny object syndrome. You guys need to find an identity and stick with it. Because as you keep on doing fulfillment for other clients and you're doing a good job, those people will start to recommend you and give you referrals to other people. But if you continuously switch niches and things like that, it's going to be really hard to build a reputation in that niche. So I always say play the long-term game. Yes, it may seem slow in the beginning, but as time goes on, that one client is going to go to 2 clients, and then that 2 client is probably going to go to, or that second client is probably going to, it could go to 3, or you could get lucky and it could go to 4 clients. Then that 4th client is going to go to 5 or 6 clients right off the bat. Things are going to start stacking. You just have to play the long-term game. But trust me, that unless you are very special, that first client is probably going to take you a little while to get. I'm not even going to lie to you, because you gotta figure things out. People think just because you do an online business, it is going to be way easier than, say, you're doing a physical business. Say you start a HVAC business or a roofing company or something in real life. That's going to pretty much be as hard as starting an online business. You just don't have to do as much physical work. But if you don't treat this as a business, you're never going to grow. It's not as easy as people make it seem online. Trust me. Your first client is going to be the worst client. But after that, it's going to start building up. You just got to play the long-term game, guys. Do not give up. But yeah, I know this video is probably carrying on for a little bit longer than I wanted to. So I'm just going to wrap it up right here. If you guys enjoyed that video, make sure you guys drop a like, comment, and subscribe. And also, if you guys agree or disagree with anything, or you want to add anything, just comment down below with the things that you want to talk about. And I always try and hit all of my comments up when I get around to it. But yeah, like I said, make sure you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you guys in the next video.